Welcome to Fantasy Focus. Today's podcast is presented by Geico. You can watch us every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube feeds, as well as the ESPN app. You can download the Fantasy Focus wherever you get your podcast. Just one game left here in Week 11. Field, Matthew, Stephania, and Daniel all here for a Monday recap show. We'll touch on Monday Night Football as well. The Bucs host the Giants. We got a lot to get to today, Matthew, including the brilliance of Jonathan Taylor. But before we do that, how are you?
I'm good. I'm thinking more about the brilliance of Austin Eckler.
Okay, well, he was great too.
He was slightly less brilliant, but in some ways more brilliant.
Okay, I'll let you explain that at some point here.
Sure.
So profound.
I'll
tell you
Early
how
on a
he
Monday
was-
morning,
I'll
I
tell you
really
how-
don't know what to do with
I'll tell you how he was more brilliant, because his game was later. So people that had lost to Jonathan, they were like, all hope is lost. Jonathan, I just got Jonathan Taylored. And then here comes Austin Eckler.
Right.
And you're like, oh, hey, what? I'm back in this thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, he did breathe some life.
Do you think perhaps because, he's so engaged with the fantasy football community, so involved, that he was like, I need to help out all those people who got Jonathan Taylored?
I think it's a good question, Stephania, and I'll allow it. I think, to be honest, I think what it was is that, he was my preseason fantasy ride or die.
I wondered when it would come back to you. Okay.
And I thought,
there we
I
have it.
think that if we can dial down a little bit further, I think what Austin said is like, you know what? Matthew believed in me, and now it's time to pay back that belief.
Got it. Okay.
So, yes, should fantasy managers say thank you, Matthew Berry? Yeah, a little bit. Like, it's not for me to say. Other people are saying it.
Sure.
I literally have
Other
the
people are
very
saying
same
it, but I appreciate that.
So
I
you're saying
appreciate
2
that.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
you Tom Brady, and then this week,
And then this week, yeah.
Austin Eckler is because of you. I mean, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen over Thanksgiving week that you're going to cause, Matthew.
Look, everyone, and my big preseason bold prediction, we can find it somewhere. Matt Harrington should find this and pull this clip up. But my
'Cause he's
big
got nothing
preseason
else
bold
going on.
prediction
Okay.
was Jalen Hurts, #1 quarterback in fantasy.
Now you're coming close to that one.
Coming close. Looking pretty good.
Let's hold off on
Just
back
saying.
padding. Hold on. Let's hold off.
Let's ignore the fact that I had Brandon Cooks on my love list this week. Let's ignore that.
Let's ignore all
that.
that.
There's a lot of stuff that we can just sweep under the rug very quickly.
We could also wait just a few more minutes to get to all that stuff.
Yes,
and
sir.
We'll talk about Jonathan Taylor in a second. But
All right.
before we get to the fantasy stuff, we do have to start the show with a very special happy birthday wish to an indispensable member here of our Fantasy Focus family. Keith Lidscomb. Matthew often refers to him as Not Cool Keith. It is his birthday today. I don't know what
Yes.
number Keith is celebrating, but the number is irrelevant. Keith has an ageless wonder about him.
He really does, actually.
He really is incredibly young looking. He is one of the single kindest people you'll probably ever meet. Keith has more integrity in his pinky than most people do in their entire body. I had a chance to catch up with Keith this morning, and what he is doing today is so vintage, quintessential Keith. I can't get over it. First, he's taking one of his kids to the dentist's office because they're having their wisdom teeth removed. Of course, Keith is there.
Keith is a great
He is
husband
an
and father. He's a
unbelievable.
great father. Yep.
And he's going to coach a basketball game later on today.
Yep.
Keith, maybe like aside from the former athletes that work here at ESPN, Keith might be the most athletic person
He's
on
a
the
really
ESPN
good athlete.
staff. Unbelievable athlete. I learned before the show from Matt Harrington, our producer, that Keith is maybe the fastest person at ESPN, maybe excluding RG3 is really fast still, probably, right?
I would guess so,
You throw
yeah.
him, and Randy Moss can still fly. But
That would be my guess as well, yeah.
like
But Keith is up there.
Yeah, Keith is up there. So
Among the mere mortals that work at ESPN,
That's right, that's
Keith
right.
is high on that list. And by the way, he's also I play in a number of fantasy leagues with Keith.
Oh my God,
he's
so
a
good.
really good fantasy player.
Yeah, he has no bad
really,
teams.
really sharp. And so he does a lot with he in essence, people are wondering, well, what does he actually do? And so he's an editor. So he helps shape the editorial content of this podcast and a lot of the fantasy football content that you read on ESPN.com. He also obviously does a lot with college basketball and baseball and all of the other sports that we cover as well. But football is one of his primary focuses.
Last thing I'll say about Keith, and I want to let Stephania and Daniel chime in here if they so choose, is that nobody loves sports like Keith loves sports. It'll be Tuesday night. It'll be like the Mid-Atlantic Ohio Valley Conference, like quarterfinals. And Keith would be like, yeah, so the starting point guard in like Cleveland
It's
Western
so
State
true.
averages 9 points a game. Meanwhile, the starting shooting guard for Southern Mississippi, community college only averages 4 points per game. Like his knowledge is through the roof.
Well,
And
that's
he's a loyal Browns fan. Loyal and devoted to his team through thick and thin. And poor Keith, we've watched him. So, like, he still dedicates annual trips, hard-earned money, and gathers with friends to go to Cleveland, even when they're at the bottom of the barrel.
It's not just the Browns, but Cleveland sports in general.
Right.
Like he's a diehard fan of the Guardians. He's now a big fan of the Guardians and the Cavs and everyone in Cleveland. But you're absolutely right. I don't know how he has time to do his job and to be the engaged father and husband that he is, because it doesn't matter what game. You're like, man, like I missed that Western Kentucky State women's volleyball game on Wednesday afternoon. Oh man, it was unbelievable. The third set. You have no idea. Like it's
amazing.
It is amazing. He's also spent a lot of time editing Love Hate. He edits Love Hate. He's one of the people that edits.
And yet he's still nice.
He's still nice. Yes.
I mean, he's done that job for years, and he's still nice to you, which is remarkable.
Polite, I think, is probably cordial to me. And, listen, I'm a tough edit. Let's be clear. I'm a very tough edit.
Shocking
but
to our
anyway,
audience.
happy birthday to Not Cool Keith, a fan favorite and one of the beloved members of the 06010 family and the ESPN
Give him
fantasy
shout-outs
staff.
on social media, everybody. Show some love to Not Cool Keith. He does
At
so much
Keith
for
Lipscomb.
us behind the scenes. We
Yes.
love him.
For the record, I miss Keith so much. Because my role has changed from what it used to be with the way that I used to work with Keith. Because before, when we were in the radio studio, you got to be on the other side of the glass until I would be working with Keith every single day, sitting right next to me. And as much as I love working with you guys here in studio, I do miss being able to have those interactions with Keith, because he is such a wonderful human that you just can't not love spending an hour sitting next to him.
And let's be clear, what he really misses is the fact that he's behind a glass.
Yes,
and so that he
some
could
kind
sit
of
there,
separation between me
right,
and you
then he
guys.
could sit there and dump all over us.
Well, it was quality
and what he would do is he would say stuff like, him and Keith and Kyle, the three of them, would sit there and we're behind the glass. And I'm like, I can see you guys talking about us.
Yes.
We're trying to do a show here. And by the way, if it were back in those times, what they would say is I wish they would get to football.
Well said by you. So let's get to football then. We
there
get to
we go.
celebrate something else today, which is the performance of Jonathan Taylor, who yesterday had 204 yards. He had 3 catches. He had 5 touchdowns. He had 53.4 fantasy points in a rain-soaked game against the Buffalo Bills. Jonathan Taylor has just been remarkable, Matthew. We've been talking about this for a while now. It is clear the single most valuable player in fantasy football is not Chris McCaffrey right now. It's not Cooper Kupp. It's Jonathan Taylor. With the way he's running, he is absolutely on fire.
He's unbelievable. It's an incredible performance. By the way, and Buffalo, what are you doing? What an awful performance by the Buffalo Bills defense that did not show up, that didn't tackle. It was embarrassing. They got dump trucked. I mean, they just got, Indianapolis was it's not like they disguised a bunch of stuff. Indianapolis just came and said, we're going to run the ball. We're going to put a hat in a hat, and we're going to run a ball, and we think ours is better than yours. And you know what? They were right.
Yeah.
They were right. And so, Field Yates, what was your preseason bold prediction?
I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, but Jonathan Taylor would lead the NFL in both rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. But I kind of wonder. So obviously Derrick Henry getting hurt impacted that. But still, Jonathan Taylor is now pacing for nearly 2,000 rushing yards and over 20 touchdowns. He's been unbelievable.
But you made that call, by the way, Field. You made that call. He was always going to be a popular guy. But my point is, you made that call when Quentin Nelson was out and might miss 6 weeks, and we didn't know the status of Carson Wentz, who might miss 6 weeks. And there was a little bit of him being faded. He was still a top 12 pick, but if you redrafted today, he goes number 1 overall, I think.
I think so, too.
And so my point is, you made that at a call where there were people that were still questioning, was he a legit top 5 running back 1, or was he more of a higher end RB2, lower end RB1, because there were concerns about the offensive line and what this offense would look like if Carson Wentz was going to miss significant time.
Nothing short of amazing so far this year.
Yeah,
And again,
he's
yesterday
great.
was his best performance. He becomes the first player ever with 175 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown all in the same game. Wow. He has been simply perfect for the Colts.
Is there a scenario in which you would trade Jonathan Taylor if you had him on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, if Christian McCaffrey was offered to me, maybe with something else I consider, and maybe even Christian
Right.
McCaffrey straight up, by the way. Like, McCaffrey does not need to have 4 rushing touchdowns in a game to unlock some of the ridiculousness that he can unlock.
Right.
Like, so I think there are some scenarios, like it's close between he and McCaffrey.
Cooper
but
Kupp plus a usable running back.
I think I would consider that. Like, if you gave me Cooper Kupp and I don't even know who right now. I'm trying to. There's so few like
Nick Chubb.
I mean, that would
that'd be a no-brainer, right? You'd have to do. I'm trying to think
we'd
of
have
like
this
someone
weird,
lower
like,
end.
Yeah,
I mean, and Cooper Kupp and Antonio Gibson.
Played the fifth on that one. I don't speak about Antonio Gibson these days after the crap he pulled yesterday. Anyway, let's get to the injuries because there's so many injuries to recap from yesterday, Stephania, and some of them were even before the game began.
Cooper Kupp and James Conner is interesting.
Yeah, that's a good example of one. I would take that, though. I would take it.
I would too.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like that. I mean, but that's how insanely valuable Jonathan Taylor is. Fantasy royalty. Much love to everyone. I have to find it, but a guy tweeted at me. He had Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler and lost.
My God, there's no way.
I mean, I was like, send me the screenshot, and he sent me the screenshot. It's unbelievable.
Oh God, who did he start? Did he start like Matthew Stafford yesterday?
No. The guy he played just had everyone that got like, like he had like Elijah Moore. The guy he played against had like a bunch. Yeah, just had a bunch of guys that just went off. Yeah. So
let's get to the injuries. There are a bunch of them. And Stephania, we followed this story all yesterday morning. It was Lamar Jackson, who on Saturday was added to the Ravens injury report as questionable after missing practice Wednesday and Thursday due to illness. Practiced on Friday. He's like, I feel great. He did not play on Sunday. What do we know about this situation? Because it is one that feels like there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't well yesterday. And when we were doing Fantasy Football Now, we saw this arrival video of Lamar, and he looked like a guy who did not feel good. He was like sunken in his clothing, just had his head down. And John Harbaugh talked about it after the game when he was asked what happened with Lamar. And he said, I really, the best way I can describe it is pretty much what you said, Field, in terms of the recap. And he said, he just came in Saturday feeling worse. He felt sick on the plane. He didn't go to the meetings the night before, and they were just sort of hoping he'd wake up Sunday feeling better. And he did not. Jamison Hensley, who covers the Ravens for us, does an awesome job, put together a story saying that he has congestion in his lungs that he is dealing with, and they are trying to figure out how to best attack it. I really think at this point it's day to day.
And I think we should just leave it there. Like, we can't get any further into this week because we have no idea. We have no clue. Again, things are looking promising on Friday, but we'll keep an eye on Lamar Jackson's
status. They do
play
Sunday night.
Right, they
so
play against the Browns on Sunday night, so we'll have plenty of time to get a sense of whether he's going to be available or not available. We'll have more, of course, on Sunday morning on Fantasy Football Now. Brief week here, by the way, on the Fantasy Focus. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. We're going to take a couple days for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Wednesday DFS as well.
Wednesday DFS, and Wednesday will be like a Friday show for us, as best we can do a Friday show on a Wednesday. Stephania, Hollywood Brown also missed this game for the Ravens. He was downgraded on Saturday because of a thigh injury. Any sense of whether that's a multi-week injury?
Well, you always get nervous when you hear about a hamstring injury in a wide receiver, especially one who relies on speed. Now, he didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but he did do a little bit of work Friday, so the Saturday downgrade would suggest that that didn't go that well. And another one, just watch it day to day and see what happens.
The Ravens wide receivers yesterday didn't do a whole lot. They didn't do a whole lot offensively, period. The only player that really played well for them in terms of the pass catchers was Mark Andrews, who had 15.3 fantasy points on 8 catches. They did not score. They scored one touchdown early, and then it was not for a while until they scored a second one.
And by the way, I mean, that's what we said on Fantasy Football Now. We talked about that very quickly, where we just said, like, with Lamar Jackson out, like, you're still starting Mark Andrews. We don't think that there is we don't think that there's a tight end you're going to find that's going to has the upside or even the floor of Mark Andrews, but you'd be nervous about Rashod Bateman and Sammy Watkins. Bateman, who we liked going into the game if Jackson were under center. Bateman's still out there in a bunch of leagues, but I believe the Ravens play the Browns on Sunday night. You know, if Lamar Jackson once again it's a tough defense in Cleveland. So anyway, sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a tough year it's Keith's birthday. Come on.
That's
like, you know.
That's a good point.
Anyway.
The Ravens running backs, though, let's quickly, like, they may actually have, and this could be one of those where, like, it's week 12, the waiver wire, we need to include some names, but Devonta Freeman quietly on the map all of a sudden, on the radar. He had 20 fantasy points yesterday over their past 3 games. He has 11 catches. That's good. He has double-digit fantasy points in each of those games, double-digit carries in each of those games.
He's scored in 4 of the last 5.
It's crazy. And Tyson Williams can't get a carry.
No.
Latavius Murray's been banged up. Le'Veon Bell's on the street again as a free agent.
Yeah.
Like, he may be sort of like the survivor here more than like the star. But as far as volume is concerned, like it's good enough that like if he's like a low, I mean, no, he's like more like a flex play for me. But God,
but I mean, like
someone has to carry the rock.
When you think about this offense, when you think about this year, Cordero Patterson, Deontay Foreman, Adrian Peterson, like it's all like ghosts of Christmas past. It's like unbelievable in terms of like some of the fantasy, and now Devonta Freeman as well. Like it really is kind of insane. It's
By the way, I want to say congratulations on getting that call right on Fantasy Football Now yesterday, where there was asked, would you start DK Metcalf or Deontay Foreman? And it was a question because Deontay Foreman almost outscored DK Metcalf.
I don't want to talk about it.
It was like crazy. Crazy you even have to have those questions, but that's where we're at this year.
Hey, it's been a weird year in fantasy football. More on the Seahawks later on. It's ugly. But the other side of that game is the Arizona Cardinals. And in a year in which teams are left and right losing quirky games, the Titans lose to the Jets and the Texans. You've got the Cowboys laid an egg yesterday against the Chiefs. You've got the Bucs on a 2-game losing streak. It's one team that's been consistent the entire way through.
Yeah, Washington. I mean,
Arizona
we're 2-0, right? I mean,
Arizona Cardinals are 9-2, baby. They are 6-0 on the road. One of two teams that are still undefeated away from their home stadium this year. Every win on the road has been by 10 or more points. We always do this stuff where we hand out awards like 7 weeks too early, but we keep talking, who's the coach of the year? Cliff Kingsbury, man.
Yeah.
Like, good for them. The Cardinals have been awesome. They were awesome again yesterday, and they did it, Stephania, without their best quarterback, one of the best, period, and their best wide receiver. No Kyler Murray or DeAndre Hopkins.
I know. You know what's interesting? Did you see Kingsbury's comments after the game where he said he was specifically addressing not having Murray or Hopkins? And he said, yeah, not to have those guys in November play at all, have the best record in football, be undefeated in the division. I mean, there's a humble brag drop right there.
Yeah.
Says a lot about the coaching staff and the players in that locker room. So obviously they're riding
Did he make that
high.
humble brag from his house? Because that house is, I mean, like you guys
he really
saw that
is
the
winning
NFL
at
draft,
life
right?
now.
Oh,
I mean, who's got it better than him?
No,
but
nobody.
DeAndre Hopkins, we knew he was going to be out. Look, he didn't practice all week. They've been very clear. Like, they are riding high, and they're looking at the postseason. They're being smart. They did not want him back. They know they have a bye coming up, and so DeAndre Hopkins out. Kyler Murray very, very close. Earlier in the week, I thought, they might bring him back because they knew they would have the week of recovery just to see how it went, but they opted to go conservative. And at the end of the day, it doesn't surprise me. I think Kyler Murray will be 100% ready to go when they come back.
They have a bye this week, Daniel. What do you got?
I just want to ask a real quick question. Is it ridiculous, or do you guys think that there will be any merit in Nuke has been hurt for quite a while now going on a bye, potentially getting Kyler back healthy if he's healthy? Is he as a potential buy low now for the kind of wide receiver that he is? Or do you think that the struggles that he's had up until this point in the season continue even post-bye when he has more time to get healthy?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we just don't know what the kind of connection that he has with Colt McCoy. It's a quarterback competition now. We just don't know where Cliff Kingsbury is going to land, whether it's going to be Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy.
No,
I think it's.
fair.
I mean, right?
Yeah,
just
fair.
we don't know. Like, Cliff Kingsbury refusing to name a
guarantee that one
starter.
yesterday?
Hey, refusing to name a starter for Week 13. So I mean, I guess let's see how that all plays out.
Technically hasn't done it yet. Technically
has not named a starter for Week 13. I'm just saying. I mean, whatever. Be honest, Field Yates. Colt McCoy looked good yesterday. Give him some props.
Although, it's funny.
What's that?
Is that did you see the end of the game where Christian Kirk caught a touchdown and it looked like a touchdown? It was a touchdown,
yes,
then it was overturned after replay.
Right. I thought it was a touchdown, by the way. I thought the knee was down. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a touchdown too, right? So I'm playing DJ Gallo in our Dynasty League here at ESPN. And we're kind of stuck in the middle. Him and I think like 5th and 6th in the league. So like doesn't really matter. He ended up beating me by like 10.1 points. And I started Christian Kirk, and I had to pick up Colt McCoy last minute yesterday because of Lamar Jackson. And it's like a 10.25 point play, and he beats me by 10 points.
Oh, no.
We're just laughing. Him and I were just laughing over it. We're just like, I mean, it was the most disgusting matchup between us. Like, it doesn't really matter. Again, like, we're playing for seeding at this point, but it might be one of those wins I end up, or I guess a loss is a win. But he did look good yesterday.
He did. You got to credit. I like that you welcome aboard the Colt McCoy bandwagon.
It's good to be here.
Jokes aside, though, to answer your question about DeAndre Hopkins, Daniel, I would say no, because even healthy, my concern with DeAndre Hopkins is that this year he's actually been pretty touchdown dependent. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been getting the volume that we've seen in previous years. Mm-hmm. Last year, he was just a volume monster for Arizona. And credit Cliff Kingsbury and that coaching staff and Kyler Murray, right? they spread the ball around. So whether it's Rondell Moore, whether it's getting the running backs involved, whether it's A.J. Green, by the way, the ghost of A.J. Green. I mean, again, as we just talk about this year, like everything old is new again. You know, A.J. Green with a nice game yesterday, and he's been much more fantasy relevant than I think people thought he was going to be coming into the season. And so for me, DeAndre Hopkins feels like a bigger name and a better NFL wide receiver than fantasy asset to me. Fully healthy DeAndre Hopkins is a top 20 guy, not the top 5 guy he used to be. He used to be. So if you want a top 20 guy, I got no problem with it. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that the person who drafted him feels that way.
Sure.
Is willing to, trade him for that kind of level. That's my take on Hopkins.
Let's keep things moving. And I agree, by the way. Let's keep things moving here on the injury front, Stephania. And the Cowboys are all of a sudden not so deep at wide receiver as they were without Amari Cooper coming into the game because of COVID protocols. And then CeeDee Lamb left the game. What's going on with CeeDee Lamb?
Right, CeeDee Lamb in the concussion protocol now. He looked like he landed really hard at one point where he was trying to make a catch or break up a pick. But in any event, he did not come out of the locker room after halftime. And obviously this is a concern. Dallas plays Thursday night. We know already they're going to be without Amari Cooper because he's going to need the 10 days minimum to come off that COVID-19 list. It would be a tight turnaround for CeeDee Lamb given the concussion. So we shall see.
We shall see on CeeDee Lamb. It's just use logic here, right? If you're in the concussion protocol, it is extremely difficult to pass out of it within 96 hours, right? They play on Thursday afternoon, of course, in their annual Thanksgiving game at home. That leaves Cedric Wilson, obviously Michael Gallup. Noah Brown is the next man up, Matthew. Michael Gallup obviously is rostered in a bunch of leagues. I would take a look anyways. But Cedric Wilson is an interesting name that we'll discuss more on the waiver wire tomorrow.
Sure.
He played quite a bit yesterday and had 7 targets after the CeeDee Lamb, or in total, many of which came after the CeeDee Lamb injury.
Cedric Wilson's played, we can talk about him more tomorrow, but nice player who had some nice production with Michael Gallup out. And yeah, I can't imagine that CeeDee Lamb gets cleared from the concussion protocol in time for the game on Thursday, even if it's a mild concussion, right, Stephania? Even if it's a small one.
You've been so good for so long, and now you're one step forward and 9 steps back. We're going to talk
story
about
of my life, by the way.
Justin,
that's my autobiography. 1 step forward, 9 steps back.
It
Right
might
there you go. The
be
Matthew Berry
Andy
story.
Dalton against Tim Boyle on Thursday. We'll discuss that in just a few moments. But before we do that, do you own or rent your home?
Sure I do.
Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. But you know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Football and basketball season is back, and best of all, the safe return of live events means you can actually be there to see all the action with Vivid Seats. From seats on the 50-yard line to a bird's-eye view to parking passes, being there is all that matters. And get this, with Vivid Seats rewards, you can earn rewards like free tickets. That's right, free tickets! All you have to do is collect stamps, redeem, and repeat. It is that easy. So grab your tickets today and cheer on your favorite team from the stands. Events for every fan. Visit VividSeats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. I just want to say field really quickly, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in here.
Go for it, Matthew. I'm sorry, Daniel.
Wow.
Wow. That's rough.
I no longer want to say my comment.
Wow.
No.
Let's just rewind. No, let's just rewind 10 seconds and pretend none of that ever happened. My birthday wish. You want to know what my birthday wish this week was?
Tim
I wish
Boyle
that the
starting on
Lions
Thursday?
would lose so that when we talked about the Browns on Monday,
Aw,
that
Keith would
Keith
be
could
happy.
have a big win for his birthday.
Okay, well, they did win.
They did win.
They won
They did
13 to
win.
10 to the Cleveland Browns.
My question is, the Detroit Lions barely lost to the Browns.
Yeah.
They barely lost to the Rams and the Ravens. And now we're
And
going to
the
get a
Steelers?
banged up Bears team on
they're-
Thursday.
oh,
All
oh,
jokes
oh.
aside, you know,
This could be
Stephania,
your
do we
moment.
have a chance with any of these Bears injuries coming up? Because I'm telling you, this could be the week, guys. This could be the week.
I love that you're
Doesn't
manifesting
Detroit
it.
lose at home all the time on Thanksgiving?
Shut what
I mean,
are
no,
you?
it's a very
That
real
was
question.
so-
I think they do lose regularly at Thanksgiving. They have this home game.
They lose
Detroit
regularly,
plays all the
period.
time.
You don't need to qualify it
See, this
with a
But
date.
I was actually setting
Stephania.
it. Listen,
It's not like they're world champions and then all of a sudden on Thanksgiving they just got this bugaboo. Like they
Here's
lose
what I was setting it up
consistently and then
for.
on Thanksgiving just happens to be one of the days they lose on.
But I always feel bad badly because
They also lose on Veterans
I am a nice
Day.
person, and I always
That's
feel like
true. Christmas.
Thanksgiving, you're one of those teams that always has a home game on Thanksgiving, and like, how awful is it to lose? But maybe that's the setup for this year. The first win is being saved for Thanksgiving Day to just really reverse the curse.
I love
I
it.
will be so happy for Daniel if that happens.
Oh, man.
And Stephania, part of
Listen, anything. What's better than Tim Boyle on national television?
Not much.
Tim Boyle versus Andy Dalton
That's
on
right.
national
When
television.
Andy Dalton's the big star, that they got to build around. That's awesome.
Okay.
Stephania, and part of the reason why we're discussing Andy Dalton is that Justin Fields left the game early for the Bears, a couple of crunching hits. What do you know about his status?
Well, we know he has a rib injury, and that's really all we know. There were reports yesterday that early reports that the initial x-rays did not show a fracture. I would remind you how many players we've seen this year where the initial results did not show a fracture. There's additional imaging that these players undergo typically on Monday after a game like this, and once they clear all that imaging, then I feel better about that diagnosis. You know, they're hoping it's bruised ribs. It's really just an extension. No matter what, a rib injury is painful, and it may cause you to miss a game 4 days later. We shall see what the extent of Justin Fields' injury is, but obviously he left the game. Andy Dalton stayed in.
Yeah, Justin Fields' friend on Instagram stories or live last night, like asked Justin Fields how he was doing. No breaks, just bruises and pains. We'll see. I've learned from Stephania and plenty of situations, Tua Tagovailoa being the most recent one, where like don't trust the initial stadium x-rays or 5 minutes after the game reports. Let's wait for a day or two to get a better feel on where things are at. As for Allen Robinson, Stephania, he missed the game yesterday. He was doubtful in the injury report, did not play. What's going on there?
Hamstring injury for him. And I think we've gotten accustomed to Allen Robinson playing through injury, so we just sort of assumed, you see him on the injury report, he might go. But this was something new. A hamstring injury just happened in this last week, the last time he played, and he really was not able to do much of anything. It'd be a shock to me if that suddenly improved by Thursday.
Okay, so probably not going to have Allen Robinson on Thursday. Means more of Darnell Mooney. He's been great. Who, by the way, has been the best wide receiver for the Bears this year. Not even close. He's been good. He's available in like 40% of leagues. Take a look. Take a look.
And it's like, what do we have to do? Because I feel like Darnell Mooney was a sleeper in the preseason for me, and by the way, a lot of people. Like, he was a popular sleeper in the preseason. I feel like you guys as well. Like, a lot of us liked him. I think he was a popular fantasy in the industry. He was a bit of a trendy name in the fantasy industry as a whole, and yet there's no. I don't know what we got to do about here. Why we got to keep banging the Darnell Mooney drum.
He's been added, so he'll continue to be added more and more and more. Stephania, a couple more injury updates here. One to your 49ers. It didn't matter yesterday, but there was no Eli Mitchell.
I know. And that was after early in the week we heard everything positive from Kyle Shanahan. We didn't know, actually, until the start of the week that Eli Mitchell had emerged from last week's game with a fractured finger. He underwent a procedure on the Monday after the game, and they had him back at practice, non-contact jersey, but ultimately they determined that he was not going to be able to play. It wasn't a pain issue, as they referenced. It was really about functionality. And it's pretty hard to manage the ball control, etc., when you have a pin sticking out of your finger, which is the case for Eli Mitchell. So we'll see if they can manufacture a better situation in the upcoming week. I wouldn't rule it out, seeing as they were even having hope, some degree of hope for this past week, but certainly they've proved that they can win with a hodgepodge at running back. So
that hodgepodge
we shall see.
Was led by Jeff Wilson Jr., who looked good. Did not look as good as Elijah Mitchell has, but he looked good yesterday. He had 38 total snaps.
Didn't look as good as Deebo Samuel.
He did not.
It's super weird. Like, I got this question on Twitter saying, like, is ESPN going to add running back eligibility to Deebo Samuel? And
Stop.
I know, right? That's your initial thought, but look at what they did with him yesterday. It's one game. It was a weird game, but I'm just saying, like, the fact that somebody even would ask that question just tells you how interestingly they're using Deebo Samuel. They're being very creative in where they line him up all over the field.
You know what they've done? They've said, hey, who's our best player? Number 19.
Right.
It's not close. Let's get him the ball as much as possible.
Yeah.
And it's worked with great returns.
And he runs, but he doesn't always line up as running back when he runs. So it's like it's a combo. It really has emerged as a hybrid position, really, for him.
But he's been one of the best wide receivers in football all season. He was great again yesterday. I mean, he was great. I should say he was great. He was wide receiver 17, and that wasn't one of his like top performances in the past month. So
He's been great.
Yep, he's been really good.
Yeah.
He, of course, found the end zone again, which was a red zone question, I believe, on fantasy football now. Good job by you, Debo Samuel. Let's keep things moving here. Spying into one more update, and that is on Alvin Kamara, who again missed for the New Orleans Saints.
Is his name Debo or is it Deeb-Go?
God, you have
You're
scratched
the worst.
many times
You know what I
before.
mean?
The worst.
Because
That
like
was
he
really
goes
bad.
fast.
Right.
Like
Oh,
D-Go.
Right.
All I know
D-Go.
is this.
D-Go,
As I
Samuel.
recall,
D-Go.
Field and I got that red zone question correct, and you
Yeah.
did not. So
I was trying to distract you
Paul's
guys.
providing an update on this yet. Let me
Has
ask you.
Paul's
know.
forgotten us an update on that?
You
It's not been my year on
you
Red
wanna
Zone.
give Debo
I'll
a
email,
nickname?
text him
You
now.
want
Luckily,
to
I
give
have
him a nickname, but you would not even consider that he would get a touchdown yesterday. You
Look,
have no faith.
It's an odds play. I'm down from you guys. I'm losing in red zone, despite
We're
the fact that
aware.
I've won 3 of the last 4 years. I am down to you guys. I'm in last place on red zone, and
Yep.
so it is an odds play. And just generally speaking, I think a player to score a touchdown, just as a yes or no binary question, in general, I think it is more likely that a player does not score a touchdown than a player
Interesting.
does. Like that's just so. And you guys both said yes, so I went no because I'm trying to pick up ground on you guys and whatever. It didn't work out. And the fact of the matter is that D-Go is a great nickname.
Wow.
So screw you guys. I'm out of here.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Paul Cartman.
so you
That
also
was good.
you have you
What?
get to first of all, you have a massive advantage of always
I?
being in the middle answering
Right,
that question.
exactly,
It's a huge advantage to
right.
always be in the middle.
Right.
Okay.
Which, by the way, so that means that you guessed.
Why don't you complain to Matt Harrington or Javi, our director? I stand where I'm told to stand. I'm a good boy.
No.
And
They say stand in the middle, stand in the middle. I stand in the middle.
Coffee would have
I
something
was
else
going
to
to
say.
say. Javi
Anyway,
would tell you about that last
we're
minute
going
of
to
the
talk
show.
about
Let's-
Alvin Kamara. Let's see if you can
Yeah.
get this one right, Matthew.
Okay, sure.
Will Alvin Kamara play on
He's
Thursday?
a running back for the Saints.
Yes, and
Played college ball at Tennessee. Where's
It'll-
number 41?
it'll
Look
be
at
Where did he
me.
start his college career?
That one I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Come on, you know this one.
He was
Same running back room as
Alabama.
Yes.
Right, Alabama. Sorry.
It's
Yeah,
like
you're
it's a
right.
legendary running back room.
Yeah, exactly.
You knew that one.
You're right. Yeah,
He
it took
did.
me a
He
while.
just
But anyway,
dust
but
off
yeah,
the,
he's a volunteer.
Rolodex.
Yeah, Rocky Top. There we go. All right, here we go.
Anyhow, Alvin Kamara did not play. Still working his way through that sprained MCL. And again, we've talked about this with a number of running backs. Everybody's just playing it smart, and the Saints have no reason to rush him back. I mean, obviously they miss him, but with Thursday coming up so quickly, I don't know. It really is interesting in his case because there was a real question mark, and Sean Payton wasn't giving any hints until late in the week, even on Friday. People who cover the team, who know the team well, we still thought it was a toss-up about whether he'd be available. So I'm not prepared to say, well, of course not. He won't be there on Thursday. I think we just don't really know. That's where we stand. We do not know.
It's getting late early for the Saints, who are all of a sudden 5-5, cannot play offense other than in the fourth quarter. How about this? Who is the third highest scoring quarterback in fantasy over the past 2 weeks?
It's Trevor Siemian.
Trevor freaking Simeon. That is
I knew
ridiculous.
that. I was going to actually bring that up to you. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. As it pertains, by the way, to Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram's been good. He had another big day yesterday, 15.8 fantasy points, which included the fumble. He's solid.
I was texting with a friend last night who's
Name
asking
drop.
me advice.
Okay.
Name drop.
I actually can't because it is actually a name. But anyway, I'll tell you off air. But anyway, so I'm texting with this person.
Michael Phelps.
And it is not Michael Phelps. It is not Michael Phelps. Anyway.
Robert De Niro.
Yes, you caught me. No, listen. So, but I'm texting with this person, and this person's quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. And they're like, earlier in the day, they had an opportunity to trade Patrick Mahomes for Russell Wilson and a wide receiver. They needed some help, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm nervous about Russell Wilson. I think Mahomes will be good. Then Mahomes again has a brutal game last night, and they're like, should I pick up Trevor Siemian? And start him over Patrick Mahomes? And I'm like, I'm not ready to go there yet, especially because they play the Bills.
Yeah.
That's a tough matchup. But my friend who is not an experienced fantasy football player is
I
just
got
like,
it.
all he's just like,
I know who it is.
all I know is Trevor Siemian is balling out, and I'm like, I hear you, man. Like, I just can't. I can't sit here and say bench Patrick Mahomes for Trevor Siemian, but I
Trevor
get it because the
Siemian.
last 2 weeks Trevor Siemian has put up. It's junk time, but he's put up a lot of fantasy points again, and the Bills' defense looked brutal.
All right, so Trevor Siemian went to Northwestern.
Correct.
That's in Chicago.
Chicago.
Michael Jordan, more of a basketball guy and a baseball guy than a football guy. It was MJ.
Yep. It's got to be MJ.
No comment.
Wow. Matthew texting with MJ. Let's talk about some running backs yesterday. There were
not
some
Michael
interesting
Jordan.
ones. Clyde Edwards-Helaire returned yesterday. And I got to be honest with you,
not
looked
Michael
better than
Jordan.
I expected him
Is it
to.
Michael
Clyde
B. Jordan?
Edwards-Helaire had it's Michael
not.
B. Jordan.
It's Michael B. Jordan. That one it might be, actually. That one it might
You
be.
guys are workout partners, aren't you?
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan?
Obviously.
Similar body types. Clyde Edwards-Helaire played for the Chiefs yesterday against the Dallas Cowboys, pivoting hard there. And he had a good game. 15.6 fantasy points, 76 yards, 2 catches with a touchdown, called for taunting, which that was really ridiculous.
That was
Don't get me started on that one. Anyways,
I will
though, Matthew
say
played
this
4.
By the way-
before you discuss.
Yeah.
We did say on Fantasy Football Now, and I want to point out that we said that we had heard that he was not going to be limited and put on a snap count.
Hold on,
Hang on
Stefania.
for a second.
Hold on.
Yep.
We did not say
That's
that.
correct.
You said that.
Well, I mean,
Many
the
times
show
over.
gets
I wanna-
credit.
No.
Like,
No.
You get the credit here.
You should get the credit. I was going to say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a good game. And you know how I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a good game? Because I heard about it from everyone on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, everyone blowing up my mentions and my DMs saying, like, oh, thanks for the advice. Like, I'll own this. I said I would start Darrell Williams over CEH until I saw it on the field. By the way, Darrell Williams still
fair.
played more. Like, I said that. I said that I would rank them, that I didn't think Darrell Williams was going to go away, that I felt like they trusted him more. They've used him more. Stefania, you were very bullish on CEH. Credit to you. Great call. Not a great call by me. For whatever it's worth, Darrell Williams did play more snaps in this game than CEH, but CEH definitely had the better fantasy day.
Have you
and
seen it,
scored
Matthew?
And scored on the and scored on a QB option play.
That's the
on
question.
RPO.
So you said you were going to wait until you've seen it. Do you think that after this week you've seen it? Are you trusting it now moving forward, or you still need to see it more?
Trust is a strong word, as we talk about. Like, the Chiefs' offense, like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, that's a longer discussion, right? I mean, so, like, I'll put it this way. When I rank this week, will I have CEH ranked higher than Darrell Williams? I will. So in that case, certainly. Like, I've changed my, now that I've seen it for, seen how they've played, but I will have them ranked closer together than I would have in the previous season, and I won't have CEH ranked particularly high. Like, I don't think he's a true bell cow, like, set it and forget it guy. I think it depends on your other options that you have, to be honest. Like, there's nothing about the Chiefs' performance yesterday that makes me feel great about that offense, right? It's just they were better than Dallas, who was awful. Like, there's not much you can say other than they were better than Dallas.
Right. I don't know if you guys want to hear about this or not, but Stefania and I tied for the win this week in Red Zone.
Wow.
Yes,
How badly?
Field, we're back
Was
in
it bad?
business.
No, it's actually fine.
Okay.
You listen, you're still in last place by a decent margin.
Yeah,
But
not a decent margin. That's all right. It's fine.
5-4 for Stefania and I, 4-5 for you. We're all in the same pick tonight for Monday Night Football, so nothing will change. Either we'll go 5-5 or we'll go 6-4. We shall see pending Monday Night Football. I cannot recall what the prop. I think it was
what's
Brady
the prop
300 yards tonight.
300
Oh,
yards.
yeah,
Yeah,
300
yards over. We all took
Yards,
the
so
over.
I could use that in a lot of ways. Anyways, let's move forward here to the Eagles, who got Miles Sanders back yesterday, and he played 35 snaps, 27 for Boston Scott, 13 for Jordan Howard. This one, though, Matthew, 7.4 fantasy points. Not great. I got to tell you, it was perilously close to being an abomination. He fumbled once inside the 10, and then again inside the 10. It was ruled not a fumble. Like, he was down, but it wasn't close. It was close, I should say. Like, It was like one of those where, oh, my God. Like,
Talking to people around the team, the anti-Miles Sanders people will tell you that the concerns about Sanders from the coaching staff in Philadelphia are the fumbles and the ability to stay healthy, right? As we always talk about, and so those are two things that have challenged Miles Sanders in his career. And the fact that they're running so effectively, I mean, like, and by the way, there was a while after that fumble, like, he disappeared for a while. So we broke this down. Like, in the first quarter, Sanders had the most carries. He had 5. Jordan Howard. I'm sorry, he had 6. Jordan Howard had 1. Boston Scott nothing. But in the second quarter, Howard had more carries. Third quarter, Boston Scott had more carries. Finally, in the fourth quarter, Miles Sanders back to leading the way. But, so the positives are...
To be fair, though, Jordan Howard hurt his knee.
Yes,
So
and that was part of it.
That may be part of why
They had to go back to him.
I just think we
They
have to
didn't want to.
mention that. We have to mention it.
They didn't want to. Kenneth Gainwell was a healthy scratch there. As we talked about, we thought there was a chance that one of the guys would be down. Turned out it was Gainwell. We'll see what happens this week against Philadelphia. But the interesting thing here, Field, is that this team, Nick Sirianni's team, it feels like it's found an offensive identity, and that's running the ball, which is not great for everyone, for us in the fantasy world, other than the fact that it's good for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts continues to be, just a fantasy monster. But they're doing a committee thing here. I feel like, I don't know where you feel, but I feel like if I was a Miles Sanders manager, I would feel worse after yesterday rather than better, even though, again, he finished with a season high in rushing yards and carries. He had 16 carries.
Of course you feel worse.
Yeah.
Fumbles aren't going to make things much better going forward,
No.
right? Plus, they're going to be a three-headed attack at running back at least every single week.
We'll see how bad the Jordan Howard injury is. I weirdly think, by the way, another guy, again, goes, Jordan Howard's another guy.
Goes to fantasy pass, right?
Goes to fantasy pass. Like, it's unbelievable. I would be concerned if I was a fantasy manager of Miles Sanders because, again, Hurts is such a threat at the goal line. So and if Jordan Howard comes back soon, there's not a lot of scoring equity there for Sanders. And by the way, not a lot of passing game usage. His last 4 games that Miles Sanders has played, he's got 13 receiving yards. 13 receiving yards total in 4 games, the last 4 that Sanders has played.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a weird year for Miles Sanders. Perhaps Matthew was right all along. Let's move forward to a couple other running backs who got opportunities yesterday. Their first in a while in the case of Nick Chubb, who came off the COVID-19 list, and he only played 38 snaps compared to just 22 for Dearness Johnson. He had 144 yards, 2 catches, and a touchdown. Nick Chubb is the lone bright spot amongst the Cleveland skilled players right now. I mean, he is just exceptional. As always, Nick Chubb is such a beast running the football. Great to see him back. You'd expect his production to only have a chance to spike in future weeks when he's probably not as limited. I mean, the guy's been off the COVID list for 48 hours, and he puts up 144 total yards. Impressive stuff from Nick Chubb. Meanwhile, A.J. Dillon has 97 total yards for the Packers. Perhaps the most impressive part for the quad father? 6 catches.
Yeah.
6 catches involved in the passing game. No Aaron Jones yesterday. Remember, the Packers play the Rams on Sunday before they go into their bye. I'm 90% positive that's correct, Kyle.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
They're home to the Rams, and they have a bye. Then they're home to Chicago.
Right. So
at Baltimore, home to Cleveland.
So we'll see whether or not we have Aaron Jones this week. But if we do not, we do know that A.J. Dillon should be locked in as a top 10 to 12-ish running back option. We're going to talk about a couple of teams that make you go, huh, in just a second. But before we do, college football fans, after an offseason that felt a little more off than usual, Fansville and Dr. Pepper invite you to celebrate because college football, as you know, has been back, and so have the fans. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Again, the season of Saturdays. There's just a few left, so let's enjoy them when rivalries run deep and nacho cheese dip runs even deeper. Yes. So crack open an ice-cold Dr. Pepper, warm up your cornhole tossing arm, and return to glory with an all-new season of Fansville by Dr. Pepper, the one fans deserve.
As long as you're not a Lions fan, it's been a great start to the NFL season, and it only gets better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action right now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings app right now. Use code FFF. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code FFF to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code FFF only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Moving along here, and a couple of teams that are making us say, huh, from Sunday.
Name the group. There's a famous song called Things That Make You Go,
Things that make you go,
Name the group.
How about moving
Suburban
right
Legends.
along?
Not
Name the
Suburban
group.
Legends.
How about that one, Matthew?
What?
Moving right along. Name the group.
Moving right along is Kermit and Fozzie
Yes!
from the Muppet Movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
crappy band we've both heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Kermit the
and
Frog,
Fozzie.
okay.
Fozzie Bear, Moving right along.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
did
the
not know
it's
that.
the,
Moving right
the
along.
Muppet movie is one of the greatest movies of all
It
time.
really is.
Agreed. You don't know it, Field?
Until Miss Piggy shows up.
The Muppet
Be
movie?
honest.
You've
Yeah.
never seen it?
No, I know that one. It's probably it's like in my top 8 for sure. Crocodile Dundee in L.A. is definitely at the top.
Obviously.
Rainbow Connection, really one
It's
of the
great.
best songs
Listen,
Last
ever,
Thursday
ever,
episode
ever.
of
don't
Sports
you guys
Stations
think
up
that
there.
Short Circuit 2.
I'm a crazy Muppet fan. Like I've written about this before.
You could have stopped this at just crazy, but
That's true. I'm a crazy Muppet fan, and I love Miss Piggy, but I actually think the whole Miss Piggy storyline in Muppet movie is the worst part of that movie.
Ooh.
I think the movie is
Audacious
going
take
great
right there.
until she shows up.
All right.
Until that character shows
We
up.
should just-
I
we
don't.
should
I-
get
Miss
together.
Piggy coming for you.
Let's watch the movie
Am I
together.
wrong?
I want to know.
People tell me I'm wrong or not. Like, and I'm not. I like Miss Piggy as a character, and I like her and Kermit. But I'm just saying that movie is literally great until that storyline shows up.
You know, who's a huge Muppets fan?
Who's that?
Ryan Tannehill, who yesterday.
Wow.
You tricked him.
By the way,
That's
true.
That
By
is
the way-
awesome. That might be one of your best hosting moves
For
ever.
the
Phil.
record,
Write that down.
for the record, things that make you go things that make you go
Things that make
CNC
you. I was
CNC
gonna-
Music Factory.
CNC Music Factory.
CNC Music Factory.
Yes.
Those
Did
of
not
us
know
who are
that.
Freedom
kids of the
Williams,
80s.
Believe it or not, I did not know that. Kids of the Matthew's like kids of the 80s. Kidding me? Kids of the 60s.
No, CNC Music Factory was like.
I'm not
I'm
talking
gonna
about
say.
that. I'm talking about you.
Oh yeah. No, but CNC Music Factory. I want to
Yeah.
say was 1990.
Oh.
It was
Do you
off my
know-
top of my head.
Yeah, probably the
I think
border
so.
of late 80s.
I'm pretty sure that Ryan Tannehill was born in 1990, wasn't he, Field?
Yes, he was, Daniel. Good call.
Now you guys are making stuff up. But go ahead.
No, he might actually have been born in 1990. That actually checks. He's about 32, isn't he?
Oh,
Anyways,
That's
31, whatever. Moving
so
along here,
hard to
Ryan
hear.
Tannehill yesterday had 35 of 52. 39 of 52 if you include the 4 passes that were caught by the Texans. As he had 4 interceptions.
Oh, wow.
It was so bad. It was so bad. I have no idea what happened to
They
the
were
Titans
brutal.
yesterday.
What happened
I
to
do have a
them?
theory. I do have a theory.
Tight
Seriously.
down.
No, I seriously have a theory here.
What's that?
And I mean this since I'm not trying to take them off the hook here. The
They're not
Titans
good
have
without
gone.
Derrick
No,
Henry?
they're good. No, of course. They just won 5 games against former playoff teams from last year. The Titans need their bye week in the worst way. They have gone through an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. Every single game had the aura of a primetime game, even if it wasn't played on primetime. Beyond that, I know every team is dealing with injuries, but have you seen the Titans injury list right now? Obviously, Derrick Henry. Obviously, Julio Jones on offense. On defense, Bud Dupree got placed on IR. Every single week, they're just dealing with another player. Jack Rabbit Jenkins goes on, not an IR, but he misses the game on Sunday. They have had so many injuries. They need their bye week so bad. It's just hard to fill the tank every single week. I think yesterday it just came to a crashing halt.
And by the way, during that game, Stephania, A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I mean, look, A.J. Brown, he had a finger issue initially that happened to him. And this is a guy who's been playing through, knee injury, hamstring injury stuff all season long. He also talked a week ago about dealing with some mental health issues. So, A.J. Brown's had a lot of pressure on him because of all the injuries that have happened to him. I think he's been very straightforward about everything he's been dealing with, but add a finger issue to the list for him. Jeremy McNichols did not play yesterday because of a concussion issue. So, the running back room is shaken up with them as well. It's been tough for Tennessee. I agree with you, Field. I think they're a team that looks like they need a break.
This is a crazy thought, but over the next 2 weeks, are you starting a single Tennessee Titan? Obviously, the bye week you're not, but they put the Patriots on Sunday. The Patriots, who we've talked about recently, they are just erasing opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, it's interesting. Like I have.
You have to start A.J. Brown.
Well, I'm in a 2 quarterback league where I have 3 quarterbacks in that league, and I have Mahomes, Tannehill, and Taylor Heineke. And so next week I'm going to have to start Tannehill next week because the Chiefs are on a bye. So I'll start Heineke and Tannehill. But no, in a 1 quarterback league, I can't imagine you're starting, or in a normal size league, I can't imagine you're starting anyone. The only one that's sort of interesting here is Marcus Johnson, last week's breakout star, he left this game with an injury. Another injury. A.J. Brown left this game with an injury, obviously. And so it was Nick Westbrook-Aquino who ended up having, a nice game for the Titans. He's had some success earlier in the year, but exactly.
But if he's out.
Yeah,
if
I
AJ
mean,
Brown's out, or you'd be like, yeah, you know what? Like, I got
Westbrook-Aquino,
against
right.
J.C. Jackson. Like, yeah, I'll take my chances there.
I know.
Right?
And by the way,
everyone
thought Deontay Foreman would have a huge game here against Houston. He didn't.
He didn't have a huge game, and they were playing from behind a lot. So Dontrell Hilliard played a lot as well. It's a weird time right now. We'll dive into the Titans more on Wednesday. Dan, what do you got?
The other thing about AJ is I would expect him to undergo some additional testing today, just because there was not a lot of information after the fact. So I expect him to undergo more today. He took a couple big hits to the chest as well. as the hand issue.
Pulse just texted me. They have had the toughest strength of schedule. They have just been through it, man. Like, it's a long season, obviously longer than ever this year with 18 weeks. Like, they just need a break. Daniel, what do you got?
On the other side of that game, I was really thinking that Brandon Cooks was finally going to put something together, and we just didn't. Again, we didn't see it.
They barely played on offense, though. They barely played on offense. They didn't have to. They barely played because they had 5 turnovers forced yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee outgained them yardage-wise more than 2-1.
That's crazy.
But just brutal turnovers, especially in the red zone here. So they only had 51 offensive snaps. The Texans did, and on those, Brandon Cooks played 23 routes. Yeah. He got 3 targets for 18 yards. He was on my love list. And just a brutal call by me. Hold on. You were not predicting the Titans to have 5 turnovers. I was not.
You were not predicting it to be the sloppiest game. I'm telling you.
It was brutal.
Rain on grass fields is the kryptonite right now for fantasy football. The Titans obviously have a grass field at Nissan Stadium. It was a complete downpour for much of that game. Like, guys were running in slow motion yesterday. Brandon Cooks obviously a speed demon. Even he looked like he was not that fast yesterday. So I think I'm taking you off the hook there. Let's move forward, though, to Seattle. And I got to tell you.
From ugly to uglier?
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. And here are a couple of reasons why. First of all, like, something's up, right?
Yeah.
How many times during the offseason do we hear commentary about, like, if you could just get this quarterback, these players on offense, you owe it to him, right? The Seahawks have Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. And they can't score a freaking touchdown yesterday? Are you kidding me? What is going on in Seattle right now? Russ had 206 yards yesterday. He had 8.5 fantasy points. DK Metcalf had 31 receiving yards. Tyler Lockett was good. He had 115 yards on 4 catches. What is going on right now, Matthew? I know that, like, we're more focused in on the stories. But they're more focused on stories of, like, teams going the right direction.
Yeah.
Right? Like, AFC contenders, NFC contenders, Super Bowl contenders are the talk of the town right now. The Seahawks cratering is one of the most, I think, interesting and notable stories for the rest of the season.
So this is probably a whole episode of NFL Live, right?
It is,
and we don't
correct,
get to, but like, if I was on NFL Live, I don't get to go on. You do, but like, if you bring this up, say, hey, my buddy Matthew wanted me to bring this up. Here's what I would say, and I feel very definitive about this. At the end of this year, Pete Carroll should retire. Wow. Pete Carroll should retire. And you heard in the offseason that Russell Wilson, the previous offseason, that Russell Wilson was not happy in Seattle. I think there is a chance. I think there's a legitimate chance that Russell Wilson plays for another team.
We're going to break that news now. We're 1 for 1 recently. We had the Cam news last week.
I'm saying that I think. Listen, this is not my reporting. People have put this out there.
Of course.
This is
Hold on, people. His own agent.
Yeah.
His own agent was like, if you're going to trade me, I'll take a trade to these 4 teams last offseason. You think going 3-7 and potentially like 5-12 is going to make Russ less likely to want to trade?
I think. I candidly think that there have been a number of, without doing a whole deep dive on the Seahawks, I think there have been a number of points where there have been very questionable coaching decisions made by Pete Carroll that has been bailed out by the brilliance of Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. And Pete's even hinted at that. He's like, without Russell Wilson, I might have been unemployed many years ago. Like he joked about that on the podium. My expectation, if I'm Pete Carroll and I'm the Seattle Seahawks, you say, like, listen, Pete, you're a Hall of Fame coach. You're going to the Hall of Fame. You've had a great career here. At the end of the season, you retire. Let us, put you in the Ring of Honor, whatever it is, give you some job in the front office, whatever it is.
Okay.
Be part of the Seahawks family. And then you trade Russ. You get a couple of first-round picks, and you start rebuilding. But what I would tell you, though, is that you're asking about what's going on with Seattle. It's a couple things. Russell isn't Russell, right? He's clearly not 100%.
Yep.
And they played a very good Arizona Cardinals defense. Give credit where credit's due.
Totally.
I mean,
I'm trying to find if he's ever gone back-to-back games with no touchdowns, by the way, Russ. Trying to figure that out right now.
I thought I had seen something about that, that this was the first time. But I can't remember where I saw it. But I think you're correct, Phil. I think it's the first time.
It's crazy.
But that's part of it too.
They look lost, as
they look lost. But lost. So it's a credit of Russell is not healthy enough to bail them out. Russell's not. I'm looking it up here real quickly too. Russell's not healthy enough to bail them out, and then you're playing a tough matchup here. Cardinals are one of the best defenses in the NFL. and
one last thing,
and they're also and they're beat up. By the way, they're beat up. They weren't able to effectively run the ball at all, and I question the play calling. Again, there's so much jokes about exactly pace of play. Like they're one of the slowest, if not the slowest, pace of play team in the NFL, and it's just like let Russ cook. Everyone thinks that's a Twitter hashtag and it's all a joke. No. Like here's a way for you guys to try to compete. And Russell Wilson, in fact, in his postgame mentioned that in their scoring drives, those were the two scoring drives they had. They played up tempo.
How about this, by the way? Two things. Did you see Josh Norris's tweet about Russ?
I did
Russ
not.
Cook? Hilarious. Go check it out.
Our
friend Josh Norris. He just had had a meme about let Russ cook, and then the other picture. It was like a picture of Russell in the kitchen, and then the adjacent photo was like 2 hot dogs inside of a bowl of cereal. Like it was, anyways, I will say this: they play really slow. How about this? Paul just sent me this. They play 55 offensive snaps per game this year.
Okay.
That's 4 fewer per game than the Texans, who are at 59. The gap between the Texans at number 2 and the Falcons at number 8 is 2.3 additional snaps per game. So the gap between them and 2 is nearly double the gap between 2 and 8. Like, they're playing so slow. I don't understand why they run the football nearly as much as they do. It's a shame. For fantasy purposes, I know it's going to sound ridiculous. You may not have a choice. You don't have a choice with the wide receivers. You continue to start them. But with the quarterback, you do. You do have a choice.
You do. I mean, like, so I have Russell Wilson in a league, and I do this league with my daughters. We do like a little friends and family league.
That's
with
when you're in second to last, right?
We're doing fine. But like I let my daughters pick the lineup, right? You know what I mean? So, and we on that team, we have Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins. And so they always go with Russell Wilson because they know who Russell Wilson is, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking at him like, honestly, like we probably should be. I might need to push my daughters to be like, listen, I get it.
You like that, and then they'll love that. If you like that, they'll love that.
Right,
you like that?
Exactly.
No, Daddy,
listen,
we love that.
You know what he is? He's Mr. Limited.
He's very limited right now. Danny, what do you got?
It's like it's. By the way, they should. Here's the other thing. And again, this is like an NFL Live hot take, and so I don't mean to be it. And I'll just say this real quickly: the Seahawks were gifted a franchise quarterback, a Hall of Fame, once-in-a-lifetime quarterback in Russell Wilson for a third-round pick, right? By the way, like normally...
They weren't gifted. They made the pick.
Well, they made the pick. But
credit for that, obviously.
No, but I'm gifted by meaning like quarterbacks like that don't just grow on trees.
Correct.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
they drafted him. Teams get credit for these things.
They drafted him. Made a great... They also signed Matt Flynn to a huge contract that same offseason. However,
they drafted him.
They drafted him, yes. But my point is that Russell Wilson turned out better than anyone thought in the pre-draft process. Fair? Right, because if he'd have been number 1 pick overall if people knew what Russ was going to become. Okay, and they have wasted his prime. It's
tough. It's just tough. I don't know what's going on. It's weird. It's bizarre. But Daniel, what do you?
I mean, they have one Super Bowl win. I mean, for one of the greatest quarterbacks. Anyway.
So here's the deal. I want to make sure that we get to Monday Night Football, but I want to ask a question about this. You're talking about how Russ has been struggling. We saw in Carolina, and I want to maybe spend more time on this. I don't think we have enough time to do it all today. But Cam looked like he brought fantasy relevance back to the Carolina Panthers.
I would start Cam over Russell Wilson now, right?
Sure.
Like, Cam's going to get goal line opportunities. He completed 21 of 27 passes. He looks energized. I know that, like, listen, there were some throws yesterday that you were like, oh yeah, like I know why he was struggling so much down the stretch last year, but he's an example of a quarterback that you could play over Russell Wilson right now. Let's quickly give you the updates on Monday Night Football because we need to make sure we cover that.
The one thing I would say is, though, I still think you're still starting DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
Yeah,
I think Russell Wilson's no longer a must start. He was on the hate list this past week, worked out, but I still think I get it. It's frustrating. They play Washington at Washington on Monday Night Football next week, by the way.
Stephania.
You should be appreciating their struggle.
Yeah, I'm happy.
That's Monday Night Football?
Monday Night Football next week is Seattle at Washington.
Are you going?
I hadn't thought about it, but maybe I should.
That's one I might be going.
Stephania, we got to move here, so I'll let you clear us up on all the players that are iffy for tonight. Gronk, every Giants skill player, including Saquon Barkley. Where are we at injury-wise?
I have to get nose out for this because there's so many. Sterling Shepard is out, so that's an easy one. Saquon Barkley is expected to play. Obviously, he's missed multiple weeks because of the ankle, the COVID-19 test, coming back, has been more involved in practice. listed as questionable, but is expected to play. I still don't know what the workload will be, though, and I don't expect it will be a full one, given that this would be his first game back in over a month. Kadarius Toney off the injury report. Kenny Golladay off the injury report. So those are good things for the Giants. Rob Gronkowski expected to play despite being questionable. Now, Bruce Arians had said that they were going to monitor his workload and see how he does in the game. We'll see if they end up doing that, but I still don't feel like they're even convinced that Gronk is out of the woods, even though he is expected to play. Chris Godwin off the injury report going into the game, so Chris Godwin also expected to play for them. Obviously, Antonio Brown is out. I think, did I hit them all?
That covers it all. Reminder, Mike Clay noted a very difficult matchup for Mike Evans against James Bradbury. Perhaps a nice spot, I should say, for Chris Godwin tonight. That's all we have for today. We are back tomorrow with a full recap of Monday Night Football. We'll do some waiver wire action as well, and we will cover anything we did not get to today. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Yeah.
Not cool, Keith, for
Not cool,
Matthew
Keith.
and Daniel and Stephania.
Happy
I am
birthday,
Phil. We're back
Keith.
again tomorrow. Day 2 of a 3-day week for us here in the Fantasy Focus. We'll talk to you guys then.
Peace out.